Hi folks, good afternoon to you all. Welcome to another episode in our Tug Life series webinars. This session is a super exciting webinar on social commerce, and as ever I'm thrilled to be your host as we delve into the dynamic world of social media and its revolutionary impact on e-commerce. I can see we've got some people obviously still joining. We'll start in a few minutes, but whilst we wait, for those that haven't used the platform before, just to say there is the ability to submit questions at any point. We'll cover those off probably as we go through, and maybe some at the end. So if I don't get around to your question, don't worry, we'll reply with an answer when we send you the recording of the webinar. So on to today. Let me introduce myself and our great speakers and the session today. So for those who don't know me, my name is Fern. I'm the UK Managing Director here at Tug, and we are a performance-driven global digital marketing agency based here in not so sunny Shoreditch. We're independent, award-winning and international, and we've been performance specialists since 2006. And we've been super lucky enough to work with some of these amazing, ambitious brands across lots of different industries, from B2B and B2C. Now today, I'm joined by three great speakers, Ian, Fern and Petra. First, let me introduce Ian Khan, Media Director at Tug, automation specialist with many years experience in search and paid social. Ian is a regular speaker in the UK, also in Germany. So welcome, Ian, lovely to see you. Then let me introduce Fern Miller, founder and chief strategy officer at Uncharted Studio. Fern has over 20 years experience in inspiring change for brands, campaigns and businesses, including a stint at CSO at Digitus LBI. Lovely to have you, Fern. Thank you for joining. And finally, Petra Urban, Senior Account Manager at Pinterest, specialising in agency and brand growth across Pinterest. Give us a wave, Petra. Thank you for joining us. So, why have we picked this topic today? Well, we know customers are more connected than ever before, spending a significant amount of time on social media. And you, as brands and marketeers, know this presents a golden opportunity for your business to meet your customers where they are and offer a more engaging and personalised shopping experience to not only boost your sales, but also build a stronger relationship with your audience and a deeper connecting bond. So throughout this webinar, we'll be providing insights, practical strategies, a few real world examples just to help you navigate through the world of social commerce effectively. So I would say whether you're a seasoned marketeer, and I can see some of you are, or relatively new to e-commerce space, I would say there's something here for everyone. And over the next 40 minutes or so, my guests and I will be chatting through who's buying and why, what other trends can brands tap into to inspire more meaningful connections, and then we're really going to drill down and get more granular and talk about how to make media more shoppable. We'll look at some social commerce examples, who's doing it well, and some advancements in measurements before we wrap up with some questions at the end. So, probably enough from me. Fern, let me come to you first and ask who's buying and why?
Hello, thank you so much. Yes, let's start with the basics. This chart shows you what proportion of social media users in each age group have ever made a purchase in a social channel. So it gives us an idea of sort of the general spread. And of course, we can see there's a large bar there for 25 to 34. That's been the focus for lots of brands. This millennial audience, all the way up to 44, in fact. But what's interesting to me, I think, when I look at this, is we're seeing quite high percentages all the way through those age groups. So 55 to 64, 65 plus are looking at sort of 10% as well. So it's becoming definitely an option and a channel for many, many audiences. It may be that millennials in particular are buying a lot more frequently, but other age groups are catching up on the channel too. So it's definitely something to think about no matter who your audience is. One reason also to think about it is that actually social is increasingly supporting a real full funnel experience. So whereas previously we may have thought about it very much for awareness and fame, we're really seeing that people are using the channel as one where not just discovery, where they're finding new products, services and brands, but also where they're actually looking there to research products. We're seeing over half of all social media users using the channel as a way to research projects. I think Petra will tell us a bit more about that later. We know that search is increasingly not being done on classic search engines. Search is an activity, not an engine's thing that I always think about. And I think what's interesting is for the youngest audiences on social, we're seeing Google actually behind two social platforms as a source for search. So behind Insta and TikTok as a place to search. So it's really important, I think, whatever your social marketing strategy, to start thinking about how to make it as purposeful as possible so that those who are there to buy find you. And of course, the natural place to support sort of recommendation within the funnel would be social. So we're seeing 81% of customers' purchasing choices being influenced by posts on social media, which is really interesting. But the important part of that, I think, is the words "their friends" posts, where we're really seeing it as a place where people are sort of talking to each other about what they're buying and wanting. So with all that in mind, what's interesting is to think about that funnel slightly differently. Um, we all know it's not really a funnel, it's a loop and it's all various different things. But the funnel's a perfectly smart way of organizing your marketing strategy in terms of understanding what people are doing where. But the point is in social media is it can happen incredibly quickly. So people are seeing brands for the first time and buying them within seconds potentially. So thinking about that, it sort of tells me that when you're considering your social marketing, consider how to make it all add up to something that will actually sell. It's a great opportunity in times where we're sort of somewhat constrained with our marketing budgets to actually make that marketing budget pay off a little more. So a useful stat to remember when you're thinking about whether this is worth your while or not is that we're seeing those 18 to 39-year-olds making impulse purchases online every 2 to 3 weeks. So something they weren't expecting to do, and suddenly finding they're buying it. And that's, so nearly half of them doing that. So that's worth bearing in mind. Always be closing, as the man said back in the day. So talking of back in the day, one thing that I think I'd like to sort of bring up here is that really we have decades of experience in understanding shopping behavior and the psychology of shopping and what's going on in shopping. And the majority of what's going on in shopping is not shopping. So the majority of it is things like dreaming about things that we might buy in the future, gossiping with our friends about what people are buying, sharing what we've bought. Back in the day, retailers put a lot of effort into entertaining us. There's Britney Spears there in a mall at the beginning of her career. Maybe we're discovering brands, maybe we're just hanging out, or maybe we're using those places as sources for experts. I think all of these things are also happening when people are browsing around online and more. What's interesting to me is that as retailers, and I think I know why this is, it's because operationally it's the most difficult part in a way, but as retailers, we very much focus on the bagging and paying element of shopping, and sometimes to the exclusion of remembering what else is going on in those channels and really delivering against those needs, which is very understandable. This is the bit that matters most to us. It's just possibly not the bit that matters most to the customer. So when we're thinking about social media, it's worth thinking about what else is going on and where you are. In many ways, you can think of each social platform as a get together or a party. Mac. And I think what you can see that bears that out is what people are doing there. So let's say most people, this is a top 5 reasons Sprout Social did research across markets. And the top 5 reasons for why people are there is not to buy things. It's to connect with friends. It's to kill time. It's to look at what's going on in the world, whether there's some inspiration there for things that they've got coming up. Petra will tell us a bit more about that. And whether they, within that, whether they want to discover new brands or products. The point is they're not there to shop. So it's a much less intentional shopping occasion than, let's say, a Saturday market. It's much more like passing something on your way home from work and sort of finding yourself buying things. And I think if you bear that psychology in mind, it sort of changes the way you might approach the marketing that leads to social commerce. So, like we were saying, I think that social platforms really operate a little bit like a gathering. Well, they classically are a gathering of people, but they're a gathering of people with a purpose. And we all know when we enter a new gathering of people that what the most important thing to do is read the room. And I see lots and lots of examples of brands not quite reading the room. So let's think about how we would read the room in different platforms. Each platform is offering quite a different social gathering. I like to think of Snapchat as it's a bit like a friend sleepover. It's very intimate, it's friends only, it's joyful, it's playful. It's not it's not there for serious chat, although it could be for deep chat amongst brands. But here, you know, brands should be joining in, they should be playing, they should be helping people play, helping people tell stories, and maybe helping people do things that do prompt deep conversations. But certainly it's a place where, you know, it's an optimistic, joyful mood, and it's intimate. By comparison, I would say what maybe one of the reasons brands have taken to Meta a little bit better is partly, I think Ian will tell us, it's the tools, but also I think it's about what mode people are in when they're there. This is a big crowd. It's everyone you've ever known. It's people dressed up. It's people showing off. And, you know, brands find it easier to be there perhaps because it's part of being, you know, part of my best lifestyle. You know, this is where I'm showing off my best self, showing off my best house, showing off my best friends. And brands can slip into that very easily. But I would say there's still more to do there in terms of how brands show up and help me get hold of the things I need in the moment. And then Pinterest, and Petra's the expert, so I'm not going to go into this, but it's quite a different gathering, isn't it? It's community groups, it's people who all like the same thing, it's people with similar inspiration to share, it's people who are there to learn, to inspire each other, to show each other things that they might not have thought of before. And within that, brands got an amazing experience, opportunity, I think, to really start inspiring people, help them to join in with each other. So yeah, so I would advise reading the room for all of your social activity, but particularly if you're wanting to sell within it. Ian's got some thoughts on this as well, I think.
Thanks, Fern. Yeah, so from a user perspective, looking at these channels, the important thing to think about from a brand point of view is making sure that the creative matches with that channel. Some big trends that we know, the way that these channels work from Pinterest, for example, I'll start with, is very much a discovery platform. So really high glossy images and really beautiful things to look at and browse. So brands need to make sure that the ads that they're placing in that environment also match that aesthetic. When it comes to Meta, as Fern mentioned, really advanced AI tools, really powerful visual imagery for products. So there's a really great opportunity here to really lean into that middle and lower funnel side of things to show off products and put the right products in front of the right people. And then on TikTok, we know it's very video forward. So working with influencers and user-generated content, really showing off how products are used and kind of avoiding that high production glossy kind of content, really just getting this really personal experience and making sure that that's considered in your creative strategy is a really great way to perform well on these platforms.
Petra, I'm going to come to you now, and you know, we talked about audience and platform, but how can brands begin to layer on top of that and tap into some of the trends to make a more meaningful connection and inspire?
Thank you, Faye. So definitely when it comes to Pinterest, I think I cannot stress enough how important it is for clients to understand how seasonal the platform is. This comes in especially when you are setting up your campaigns, because the targeting with keywords and interests, it's very crucial to be on top of the trends that are currently active on Pinterest platform. Summer is our biggest and most positive time of the year, and because people are so happy to think about their holidays, to plan their holidays, they start doing that very early. So the peak opportunity for like the summer season, when people are thinking about their outfits, about their vacation ideas, where should I go, what should I do, they start doing that on like around March. So they want to prepare themselves, because like pinners are planners. They like to discover things. They like to plan them in advance. Doesn't matter if it's staycation or vacation. So the peak opportunity is very long between the March and August, and that's the reason why the amount of ideas saved, it's massive. So you have more than 73 million of ideas saved throughout that time. One of the most important moments that we can see on the next slide is basically Pride. Why is Pride so important on Pinterest? Keep in mind that 2 years ago, we were announced as the most positive platform where people feel safe and comfortable to express themselves. This is very important to understand because of the Gen Z. Gen Z is the highest growing audience on Pinterest. They like to express themselves. They like to be very loud about their opinions, and they think that Pinterest is their hottest platform at the moment. So when it comes to Pride, depends on what kind of, let's say, location geographically you're coming from. So when it comes to UK, since the Pride, UK and Ireland, since the Pride is happening in June, search starts around April. So they're not just thinking about their outfits and makeup, they are thinking even about tattoos. So people are so engaged with it that they would even tattoo themselves for the Pride. When it comes to different countries like Spain, the Pride is happening in July, or even like Netherlands when it's happening in August. But it's a most positive and most colorful event of our season. On the next slide as well, I think this is one of the most related moment for retail industry when it comes to fashion. So festival season became one of the top 3 searches on Pinterest between April and September. You need to keep in mind that Coachella is happening in March. And that's where all the fashion trends for festival outfits will be set up. So even when you have festivals in UK like Glastonbury or Rock in Rio Lisbon or Mad Cool Festival in Spain, people are going to relate the search and all the mind around it that what they've seen on Coachella. So it's all about the makeup, outfits, and even like car camping, because few of those festivals are very camping festivals. Also, what we advise our clients is to think about what time certain festivals are happening. So you can add keywords around Coachella, Tomorrowland, or even like Mad Cool Festival, Rock in Rio. So those are all things that we like to mention and think outside the box when it comes to festival season on Pinterest.
Thanks, Petra. I think there's some great points coming out that first section. I think for me, the point about meeting planners at the beginning of that wave, that trend, is super important. And as marketeers, we can kind of get ahead of that curve and begin to inspire and take inspiration from that ourselves. And I think, Fern, your point around social platforms being more commonly used as a search engine, I mean, we kind of know that trend has been happening for a while, but in terms of marketers and brands, we know we need to be able to recognize that and pivot that funnel, as you called it, that hitty mix in the middle to plan for that accordingly. Great, thank you, everybody. So we've looked at the broader question of why and who might be buying and how we can use those seasonal events to build the framework for our social commerce strategies, and all that's great, of course. But what we really want to do is hone that in, get a bit more granular, and talk about how we make media more shoppable. So Ian, I mean, not that long ago, it was super hard for e-commerce brands to deliver, big paid social creative at scale. How do you think that's changed, and what impact has that had?
Yeah, so with the advancements in a lot of the tools that we use for paid social, it's becoming increasingly more simple to sell lots of products and work with product feeds in a catalog. So really, when it comes down to it, what we want to achieve with e-commerce online is getting people to learn about products, discover products, put them in their basket, and ultimately check out and become valuable customers and lifetime customers for a brand. So that's where the product ads and product feeds become so important. And so I just wanted to go through some examples of how we best do that. These examples are from a tool called Confect. There are a couple tools like this out there, and essentially what they do is enhancing that product feed. So some brands may have hundreds of products, some brands may have thousands of products. This is really enabling that to be improved at scale. So adjusting for seasonality, making sure that there's the right kind of discounts and USPs. If we look at the example on the left, this is just the standard ad that is available with the basic tools. And you can see it's pretty plain. It's got just a product on a white background. There really isn't any branding. And then just some basic product attributes like the name and the price. And the examples on the right are examples of how those product images can be enhanced and add branding, add some color, add dynamic product attributes to really get those right products in front of the right people. and make them stand out from the crowd. And we know from a study done by Nielsen in 2023 that 47% of incremental sales from paid social were driven by creative quality. So it's not just about the data. The creative element to stop the scroll and get people interested is incredibly important. So there's a lot of benefits of really leaning into enhancing product feeds, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of them here. The first one, which I've touched on a little bit, is color and visual adaptation. So we've spoken about this already in terms of the trends and seasonalities. H&M is a brand that does this really well by using vibrant colors and light colors in the summer to really lean into that attitude and that atmosphere with their customers. And a study done by Confect using this knows that 23% of 23% using colors are 23% more likely to drive sales, especially in the summer period. The second thing is branding. We know that using clear branding results in 43% more effective conversion rates, which is pretty understandable. I mean, there's so many products out there, there's so many different ads out there. Being able to have that brand recognition and that logo on top really improves that consideration element for brands. And again, the third point, pricing and discounts. Some people are more price sensitive, others are less price sensitive. Some people respond well to seasonal promotions, others respond well to short-term discounts. All of these things can be leveraged with AI to make sure that the right message is put in front of the right person to really drive that performance and drive that the number of sales. The fourth thing, which I think is really important, is avoiding ad fatigue. We know that the e-commerce space, especially with retail and fashion, is really fast moving. And so in the past, when you've potentially had to really spend a lot of time looking at different seasonal advertising and constantly changing things and having it be very manual and with lots of different products, that can be a very, very cumbersome task. So having these dynamic ads where everything is constantly staying fresh and adapting to seasonality and adapting to users' preferences avoids the issue of ad fatigue in the marketplace. So people aren't always feeling like they're seeing the same thing every time. So putting all these things together, having that improvement in the visuals, adding those dynamic elements and attributes, that really just leads to really scalable and effective growth for product ads. And not to forget the video element of things. A lot of tools out there, this is a specific example from YouTube, can leverage the product feed that you have along with video. So when you have a video about a product, you can make it really simple to find and browse and research that product on the website and add it to a cart and purchase.
Petra, you guys aren't going to be sitting still over at Pinterest, are you? What new formats have you got out that brands are testing and trialing at the moment?
Yeah, we're definitely not standing still. So basically, we all know that Pinterest has always been known as a platform for the Apple funner. So it's like, oh yeah, I go to Pinterest, I say some biz, I'm getting inspired, and I leave the platform. So that's not good enough for us anymore. We decided that platform will start moving more towards the conversion. So when it comes to ad formats for driving conversions, standard ads provide kind of like a very fluid experience for Pinterest to connect directly with the content they're interested in. So this is making it very simple for them to take actions. We want them to take action. Action is a conversion. Convert them on the website. That's the mindset that we want to have with our audience. So these ads are designed to take pinners from the inspiration to the action. So from the moment they see the ad to the destination that it's on or off Pinterest. So when it comes to shopping ads, they offer kind of ability to advertisers to turn their product pins into ads. So this is kind of helping them directing users to the product landing page, and it's making the whole journey of shopping way easier. On the other hand, we do have the collection ads, but we kind of suggest them to you, like we use them as an upselling format. The reason why is they drive a larger basket size. And as Ian said, video is coming in, so we decided that we will add videos into our shopping ads. So that being said, before we were only running catalog sales campaigns with static photos, but we decided that since video is becoming the most popular ad format on Pinterest platform, we will allow and make sure that our clients can even add videos into the catalog sales campaigns. So basically, on the other slide, we can see that Pinterest is trying to migrate from certain objectives And we just want to make sure that direct links are there for all the campaign objectives that we have, because it's proven to help drive more traffic and outbound clicks. We need those outbound clicks. We need website visits. Reason why, this is allowing us to get more value with the lower funnel campaigns, which are still crucial for Pinterest. The reason why is you collect the data, and once we have all the website visits, engagement lists, we can run extremely successful retargeting campaign on Pinterest. We all, like whoever has ever run any kind of retargeting campaigns on Pinterest, the bigger the audience size is, the more website visits we have, the more engaged with the audience, the more successful retargeting conversion campaign will be.
Great, thank you, Petra. There's lots of great new formats there. I mean, obviously, I'm hearing shoppable formats is where we're going. I can actually see someone's posted a question, what's after shoppable formats from video? But maybe we'll come back to that one. Let's move on and have a look at who's doing it well and for what particular reason. Ian, as a performance specialist, what is most important to you when you're running a social commerce campaign?
I think the most important thing is data, is creating that feedback loop, being able to leverage a lot of products and constantly looking at your audience and looking at what's working and what's not working. An example I wanted to share here is a case study that we did for End. They're a global fashion retailer based in the UK. They came to us to test paid social, essentially. They hadn't run it very much before, and they wanted to see what we could do to improve their performance. So we proposed a test which really leveraged their product feed. We used for AI-driven formats like Advantage Plus on Meta. And you can see we combined the product feed with creative. So an example on the left, you've got a seasonal video that highlights the products of the season, and underneath is a list of products. And so these products come directly from the feed for that catalog, for that season, and they're adapted uniquely to each user that sees them. So they don't always look the same products. It's based on lots of different factors like user behavior and different brands that they've interacted with on the platform. So all of this data, really valuable data, is being used to create these dynamic ads. And then when you click on it, it opens up in the platform and users can browse the products without having to leave the app just yet. So this creates a really seamless experience, seamless shopping experience, like browsing in a store. And then if they do choose to look at a product in more detail, it goes directly to that product on the page to check out. So after running this test, we saw that there was a 122% reduction in the average cost per sale. We had a 34% increase in the average basket size. We saw a 12% revenue above the benchmark target that we were given, and the ROAS increased by 126% in the first 4 weeks. So this is a really great result based on these really AI-driven product ads. And to take that a step further, we worked with End with a tool that we've created in-house called Real Impact, which is a media mix modeling tool that allows us to see the overall impact of our performance for the business's bottom line. So not just looking at what Meta is telling us in the ads manager, but really looking at, is the brand's revenue increasing as a result? So this uses things like macroeconomic data, things like inflation, the cost of sugar, all these different macroeconomic factors, as well as business factors for them, such as promotions and seasonality and things that their competitors are doing, to create an estimated revenue estimation over time. And so we're able to look at that and then compare that to the actual performance once our campaign was running. So we can see that there was a deviation from what was expected, and we can say from this with a 75% level of confidence that there was an impact through that campaign, which is really, really great result to be able to present to a client. Another thing I'd like to touch on briefly, and bear with me because this is going to get a little bit technical, is that data side of things. So there's three main factors to make sure that we are creating that feedback loop to improve performance, to learn to use AI, and really drive that growth and efficiency. So the first one is about the data that's being fed back to the platform. So we use Google Tag Manager and the data layer on the website. So that is what sits behind the website and has all the information about your e-commerce activity. So the price of a product that's being viewed or added to cart or purchased, the currency that's being used, the name of that product, the quantity that's being added. So all of these things are fed back, not only for us to report on the performance of the ad, but also to teach these platforms and gather data about what's working and what's not working. The second is enhanced conversions. We know that cookies are slowly being deprecated online, and enhanced conversions allows us to match users who are logged into a platform with their website behavior. So if cookies aren't available to be tracked, we can still see that somebody who's logged into Facebook was on Facebook and then made a purchase. So that's a way to link that up. And the third thing is using server-side tracking to avoid collecting third-party data and keep that information to be first-party, housed in a server that the brand owns. So this is not only good for improving data collection, but it's improving user privacy as well, because less of that data is being shared with the platforms, and it's only being shared in the case of confirming that a transaction or a conversion has happened. And so brands who implement these tend to see a 13% lower cost per conversion on average, and are able to measure 17% more conversions. So that means that without this, there's data that's being lost, and 17% more conversions can be seen and can be measured and can be used for optimization as a result.
Ian, can I just ask you on your server-side tracking point, would you say that that's particularly important for brands now when they're planning their first-party data strategy?
Yes, absolutely. It is, I think, probably the most important thing for developing first-party data. There's always going to be things from customer lists and CRM, and that's always first-party data, and that stays private, and that stays within the brand. But when it comes to website activity, having a server allows user behavior activity on site to also be first-party and protect user privacy as well.
Okay, thanks. I also really liked your point about seamless experience, and you know, that's such an important part of everybody's shopping experience, obviously for repeat purchases, growing that lifetime value of a customer as well. All really, really important points. Thank you. But I might just pause on that bit off the back of that. And perhaps I can ask each one of you to recall a memorable social commerce campaign. Tell everyone about why you liked it and what was so important. Ian, as we were talking to you, perhaps you can kick us off.
Sure. I think one brand that sticks out in my mind is HelloFresh. They're kind of doing all the things that we've talked about in this webinar so far. I think in terms of the right creative for the right platform, if you look at their Pinterest profile, it is lots of beautiful photography of meals that have been created, along with recipes and things like that. So that's really leaning into the strengths of that platform. If you look at TikTok, it's very user-generated type of content, people going through grocery stores and kind of showing that experience of it's so much easier to just get your ingredients delivered directly to you. And then on Meta, they're really leaning into the sort of direct, high production quality, really clear USPs about what the brand offers and how easy it is to sign up. So really using the strengths of those platforms. And I imagine they've got a pretty good, robust data strategy for improving that in the background as well.
Do you use HelloFresh? I've got to ask.
I do not. I've always considered it, but I haven't.
Oh, there we go. Petra, we've talked a lot about fashion and retail. Is there a particular social commerce that stands out for you? Is it in that space? Is it something different?
Definitely. So I picked the Agio campaign that we set up before. The reason why I picked this one is literally I didn't want to go with the fashion or home decor, because that's what usually people think about Pinterest. They think that's the only thing that you can do at Pinterest, which is absolutely not true. Diageo was one of the most challenging, I must say, campaigns that probably I've ever set up in my life or career here at Pinterest. First of all, because it was one of the first 3 brands that was brave enough to test quiz ads on Pinterest when they were just introduced. I was like, please just make this ads work, just make it work. Like, I'm learning what is going on here. But what we did is we tried to prove everyone that even like industries like food and drinks can succeed on Pinterest as long as you have strong creatives. Ian talked as well a lot about visuals. Visuals are the way how you engage with your audience on Pinterest. There's no conversation happening, so you need to have strong creatives in order to gather people's attention. So what Diageo did, like, we focused on quiz the board pin extensions. So this means that we set up like 3 simple questions. Questions can always be customized. And they were basically generating like a customized board on their profile. So you pick all the things, you put everything, you answer the questions, and then you get the recipe for the perfect cocktail that you can make at home. So the biggest win definitely was just proving that different categories on Pinterest can succeed as well. So they have like more than 680 pins per week, which was massive for the food category. And I think the biggest win was that we proved that with these kind of catalog ads, people engage more. So the average time that pinners spend engaging with the pin extensions is like 33 seconds. With this campaign, they were engaging on average 78 seconds. So there was like 45-second increase, which was a massive, massive success.
That's a great case study. Thanks, Petra. Fern, let's end up with you. What's a memorable social commerce that you would want to share with us?
Well, I think it's very hard to beat the very first brand to sell anything through Snapchat, which was all the way back in 2018. That's probably feels like a long time ago to some of the younger people on the call. And the reason I love this is, for me, it's a really famous, very memorable, exciting, delightful brand moment where they also sold stuff. So apparently, if you know about basketball, which I apologize that I don't, the NBA All-Star Weekend is a huge date in the calendar in America, and quite often where lots of limited edition drops and different kits and so forth also lands that year, that weekend. So in 2018, that was 30 years since Michael Jordan had performed his free throw from the something line, and it was a huge moment, very iconic moment if you know anything about basketball. Also sort of somewhat celebrated in the Air Jordan logo there. So it's a huge moment. They decided to pick that moment as a way of experimenting with a completely different way of selling kit. So at the time, no one had sold anything on Snap yet. This was very delightful. If you attended the after party, the All-Star after party, which is where the fans go to see what Jordan's got for them, they got a limited time geofence snap filter. You can sort of see it at the top of those shoes there. That's what it looked like. It was on the board there. If you scanned it, you got the filter, and you could. It was an AR filter which allowed you to look at that jump from 360. So it's a big moment. It gave them some value within that moment of exactly sort of, you had Jordan jumping on your snap. But also you could buy the special preview of the limited edition trainers that had been designed to celebrate the moment. And you could buy them then and there in the stadium. But most importantly, you could receive them that night, which is almost as magical as anything else that's happened in that case. And they sold out within 23 minutes. Which I suppose tells you that there was a lot of demand, but also tells you that maybe didn't make so many of them. But also the most important thing for me is that literally every single part of this was magical. Literally every single part of it, I'm sure, had a lot of organic social reach. People were probably tweeting and chatting about it all night. And still, for me, is the best social commerce case study I've seen. And it surprises me that we don't see anything of this ambition. And I think, the ability to sell from an event or from an ad is actually magical. We just need to embrace it.
Very good point. They're amazing trainers. I wish I had a pair.
Yeah, me too.
We've chatted through 40 minutes already. Before we wrap up and come to the end of our session, there's a couple of questions that have come in. We've probably got time for. Ian, I think this one is probably for you. I've got a question here. What metrics should businesses focus on to measure the success of their social commerce strategies?
That's a great question. So I think the first one that people generally gravitate towards is ROAS, the return on ad spend. But it's not, should go beyond that as well. ROAS is obviously really useful for measuring the impact of ads, but it always measures a snapshot in time. And I think it's important to look at growth over time, looking at customer lifetime value, being able to pull in that kind of information. And I think there was actually a really interesting case study that was done, I can't remember the brand, but done with Google AI, where they realized that some of their highest ROAS customers were actually people just buying large baskets and then with the intention to try things on and return them. So looking at not only that as in a vacuum, but looking at the overall and sort of thinking like, oh, well, maybe we can look at lifetime value, returns, factor all of that in to make sure that marketing is the most effective.
Petra, would you add anything on that from a Pinterest perspective?
Well, from the Pinterest perspective, from the point of my clients, we do focus mostly on ROAS, and that's basically the metric and the KPI that everyone is looking at. What I would say what worked very well is not just focusing on the product, but the story that you need to tell. From my experience, ROAS that from the campaigns that I remember, which were usually the fashion industry, the brands that were like sustainable, the brands that were like more slow fashion, that told the story first, gathered the traffic, well, what they do, what the brand is about, and then started the sales campaign, their ROAS was like 19, 20, 24, when you have a usual, like the average ROAS on Pinterest is something between like 4.5 or 5. So I definitely think that if the ROAS is the thing that you are focusing on, not just thinking about the product, think about the story that you need to tell. That's how you start, and then you finish with the conversions later on.
Great, thank you. One last question. Fern, this might be one for you to answer. Somebody has asked us, what are the biggest challenges businesses face when integrating social commerce into their marketing strategies? As a strategist by heart and by trade, what would you say to that?
I mean, in most cases, the first challenge is operational. So it's about sort of integrating social commerce with your overall e-commerce strategies. And that is why I think we then quite often see brands sort of almost stopping there. So that's at the bagging, delivery, getting page. And I think the next challenge that brands will face will be getting people into the store in the first place. And I think all of the things we've talked about in terms of really understanding what people are there for, thinking about it as an opportunity to add magic rather than just sort of drive people into buying something, will help you escape that trap of sort of setting up the shop and thinking, if we build it, they will come. I think it's really about making sure that that's part of an overarching strategy, which is just about making your products irresistible. Same way as you merchandise it in stores, same way as you spent lots of time thinking about showcasing it on your website. Similarly, we've got to sort of think about these social channels as a new way to express what's great about your brand. And another note I would just say on that, which is possibly something that people find difficult to do, is often brands think about the same products in all of the channels. It is possible that it's a portfolio management challenge. There are some products that sell much better in this channel than they would perhaps elsewhere. And you see sort of the newcomers developing products that are really designed for, for the sort of TikTok made me buy it trend, because they've got the visual appeal, they've got the immediate benefit. And so another challenge, I think, is trying to sell the same things on everything. Think about your portfolio and whether you've got better hitters for social in that portfolio. So a bit of advice I would give.
Great answer, Fern. Thank you. Very quickly, can I have a quick last key takeout from you, Fern, before we close the session today?
Yes, my number one piece of advice is that they're not here to shop. They're not here to shop. So what are you going to do that entices them to do it?
Fabulous. Petra, your key takeout for me.
Well, I have to talk about creatives because Pinterest is the visual platform, of course. I would definitely say video is the king. Focus on creating video content, especially when it comes to Pinterest. The good thing is that people don't like to watch long videos. So they need to be very short, 12, 15 seconds, actionable. No matter what kind of brand you're promoting, include people on it. Like, try to trigger people's emotions, even when it comes to shopping or anything as such, and have a certain very strong call to action at the end of the video.
Super. Ian.
I would echo Petra's point. I think from a media perspective, we like to think really heavily on targeting and data and the really kind of technical side of things. But it is clear that social media is driven by creative. So it is the right combination of both things that makes it work.
And I think don't forget to sprinkle a little magic is the end takeout from you all. Thank you. Listen, we're at the end of our session today. Thanks to my amazing guests, to Ian, to Fern and to Petra. Thanks to you all for joining as well. We will send the recording. Please do get in touch at hello@tugagency.com if you want to chat about anything you have heard today. Look out for the invite to the next webinar. And goodbye from all of us, and thanks again.